Something doesn't add up here. A man who spent weeks fueling anger against foreigners suddenly steps in front of a camera and calls them brothers. No apology. No clear explanation. Just a complete shift in tone. One moment it's close the borders. The next moment it's we are one Africa. So what changed? Was it pressure behind the scenes? Was it fear of consequences? Or did something happen that forced this sudden transformation? Because in situations like this, people don't just wake up and change their minds overnight. And if they do, there's usually a reason. Before we go any further, watch this clip carefully.
Countries like Zimbabwe, Zimbabweans and Mozambicans, the majority of them, they are doing good to us. Some of them, they are totally out of order and doing crime. But we are still have a room of negotiation with Zimbabweans and Mozambicans. And if you look at Nigerians and Congolese and other countries, central part of Africa, most of them, they are the number one criminals that are committing crime in our country. So it makes us fear that how can we allow those people to be part of us?
Ngizwe Mchunu speaking about African unity. If you want to understand what's really going on beneath the surface of this story, make sure you like this video and subscribe, because what we're about to uncover raises more questions than answers. This story matters right now because it goes beyond one individual. It touches on law enforcement, political influence, public pressure, and a growing crisis that has already left communities divided and businesses destroyed. At the center of it all is Ngizwe Mchunu, a controversial figure who has recently found himself at the heart of South Africa's ongoing tensions around immigration and xenophobia. To understand this shift, we need to go back. Ngizwe Mchunu is not new to controversy. Over time, he built a reputation as a loud and unapologetic voice, often aligning himself with nationalist sentiments. During the recent wave of anti-foreigner protests, his name became even more prominent. These protests were not just peaceful demonstrations. Reports emerged of foreign-owned shops being looted, people being harassed, and communities being destabilized. Many accused leaders within these movements of encouraging or at least not doing enough to stop the violence. Groups like Operation Dudula gained attention for organizing actions targeting undocumented immigrants. The movement claimed it was about protecting jobs and enforcing the law. Critics, however, saw it as dangerous vigilantism. And here's where things get important. Leadership within such movements carries influence. Words spoken publicly can quickly turn into actions on the ground. When tensions are already high, even a single statement can ignite chaos. But then something started to change. Authorities began to respond more firmly. Senior police officials, including KwaZulu-Natal Police Commissioner Lieutenant General Nhlanhla Mkhwanatsi, issued strong warnings. He made it clear that taking the law into your own hands would not be tolerated. This was not just a casual statement. It was a direct message to protest leaders. And what happened next raised serious questions. Shortly after these warnings, reports began circulating that law enforcement was monitoring individuals believed to be inciting violence. While not all names were officially confirmed, speculation grew rapidly online. At the same time, public sentiment began to shift. Communities that initially supported anti-foreigner actions started expressing concern. Videos surfaced showing individuals being embarrassed in public spaces. Some leaders who once enjoyed strong support suddenly found themselves isolated. Even within Operation Dudula, cracks began to appear. Leadership changes, resignations, and internal disagreements started making headlines. And then the video. Ngizwe Mchunu appears calm, composed, and speaking a completely different language, figuratively speaking. He talks about unity. He talks about African brotherhood. He questions division. For many watching, it felt like a complete reversal. But here's where things get disturbing. There was no clear acknowledgement of the damage already done. No detailed explanation of what led to this change. Just a shift. So, naturally, people began asking questions. Was this a strategic move to avoid legal consequences? Because if law enforcement was indeed closing in, a public change in tone could be seen as an attempt to distance oneself from earlier actions. Or was it pressure from higher up? South African politics is complex, and influence often operates behind the scenes. Could someone powerful have intervened? Or was it simply public rejection? Because let's not ignore the timing. Reports of him being denied access to spaces, ignored by people in public, and facing visible embarrassment started surfacing around the same period. That kind of social backlash can be powerful, but this is the part few people are talking about. There's also the issue of narrative control. In moments of crisis, changing your message can be a way to reshape how history remembers you. Moving from a figure associated with division to one preaching unity can shift public perception, if people accept it. The question is, will they? To fully understand the impact, we need to look at what this situation means beyond one person. Socially, the damage caused by xenophobic violence runs deep. Foreign nationals who have built lives and businesses in South Africa often operate in fear during these periods. Trust between communities breaks down quickly. Economically, the consequences are significant. Many small businesses affected by looting and destruction are part of local economies. When they collapse, entire communities feel the impact. Jobs are lost, services disappear, and tensions increase. Politically, incidents like this put pressure on the government to act decisively. Failure to do so can lead to criticism both locally and internationally. And this isn't the first time South Africa has faced such a crisis. Previous waves of xenophobic violence have drawn global attention. Each time, there are promises of reform, stronger enforcement, and community rebuilding. Yet the cycle seems to repeat, which brings us back to the present moment. Public reaction to Ngizwe Mchunu's shift has been divided. Some see it as a positive step. They argue that any move toward unity should be welcomed, regardless of past statements. Others are far more skeptical. On social media, critics question the sincerity of the message. They point out the lack of accountability and ask why the change happened only after pressure began to mount. Supporters, however, suggest that people can evolve. That changing one's stance, even suddenly, is better than continuing down a harmful path. Media coverage has reflected this divide. Some outlets highlight the importance of de-escalation and unity messaging. Others focus on the unanswered questions and the broader context of recent events. And then there are officials. While no formal charges have been publicly confirmed against Mchunu in relation to these specific incidents, the warnings from law enforcement remain clear. Any individual found to be inciting violence could face serious consequences. Which leads us to what happens next. Will there be investigations into the recent violence? If evidence links specific individuals to incitement or organization of unlawful activities, legal processes could follow. That would involve arrests, court proceedings, and potentially long-term consequences. Will movements like Operation Dudula continue in their current form? With leadership changes and growing scrutiny, their future remains uncertain. And perhaps most importantly, will this shift in tone actually reduce tensions on the ground? Because words alone are not enough. Real change requires consistent action, accountability, and a commitment to preventing further harm. But here's the uncomfortable truth. Situations like this rarely resolve cleanly. Even if public figures change their message, the effects of what has already happened don't disappear overnight. Communities remember. Businesses don't magically rebuild. Trust doesn't instantly return. So when someone suddenly switches from division to unity, it raises a deeper question. Is it genuine change or calculated survival? Because in high-pressure environments, where law enforcement is watching, public opinion is shifting, and political stakes are rising, people adapt. Sometimes for the better. Sometimes for self-preservation. And sometimes we may never know which one it is. What we do know is this. The events surrounding Ngizwe Mchunu are not isolated. They are part of a larger pattern of tension, reaction, and response that continues to shape South Africa's social and political landscape. And until those underlying issues are addressed, stories like this will keep repeating. Different names, same cycle. So now the question is yours. Do you believe this sudden change of tone is genuine? Or is there something more happening behind the scenes that we're not being told? Let me know your thoughts.